Hey guys, welcome back to the Jordana River Podcast. I'm Jordana. It is great to be back. For those of you who know us, welcome back. And for those of you who are new, welcome to the show. This is where we're going to be talking about current events here in the beautiful land of Israel. I'm Jordana, and we are on a beautiful Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. November 5th, does that ring a bell to anybody? It is U.S. Presidential Election Day. May the best man or woman, best man win. We will get to that later on in the show, but you know the routine. We start off with showing the beautiful olive groves here in the Iranian hills. This is in our backyard. Beautiful olive trees. Here we are, beautiful olive trees in the Iranian hills. All right, so let's get started, my friends. All right, my friends. So today is November 5th, and we are going to be talking about Iran and U.S. elections. And I have so much to say. It has been nearly 2 weeks since my last video. I really apologize. I really was trying to get to this sooner, but could not get to it sooner. By the way, here in Israel at around 5 o'clock, it already is starting to get dark. So I try to do my podcast during the day so you can see the beautiful Sumerian hills. Israel has moved to the, officially moved to the winter clock. And about a week and a half ago, my friends, Israel launched a retaliatory attack against Iran. It was about a week and a half ago on Friday night, the eve of our Sabbath, that about 100 Israeli Air Force aircrafts launched a brilliant and really important, strategically important attack against Iran. Iran, just to remind everybody, on October 1st launched a humongous ballistic missile attack on Israel. About 200 ballistic missiles were launched at Israel. By the grace of God, we did not have any killed. I think there was some damage done in certain areas, but thank God I think maybe one person was killed. I don't recall. Someone who was walking outside during the sirens. But other than that, thank God we have aerial defense systems in place, and it really saves lives. But each day that I wasn't able to get around to this podcast, I was like, if I don't get around to this podcast about Iran attacking sooner, and it's been already a week and a half, about Israel attacking Iran a week and a half ago, I'm like, it's not going to be relevant anymore. Or Iran's already going to attack back, and there's going to be like World War III. You got to get this video out. So, my friends, let's talk about Israel attacking Iran. All right, everybody, bear with me. This is my Trump impression. It's not great, but hopefully it'll get better. Iran, you have been fired by Israel. And if you don't believe me, you believe in fake news. All right, everybody, I just love that sync. Iran, bye, bye, bye. One more small reenactment of what took place in Iran a week and a half ago. All right. Those are the Iranian ballistic missiles and the Israeli Air Force jet coming to attack them. Okay. I think you get all the reenactments. Iran, bye, bye, bye. A week and a half ago, 100 Israeli Air Force aircrafts attacked in Iran, we were instructed by the U.S. administration, headed by the Biden-Kamala administration, to not attack any nuclear sites or any strategic sites such as oil fields in Iran, which is like basically the majority of their economy is based on these oil fields, like maybe 80% or so. Iran doesn't actually process the oil themselves, but they do have the raw oil and from the oil fields. And so U.S. directed Israel, instructed us not to attack any nuclear installation sites or any strategic sites, not to harm their economy, not to really do anything strategic. So what did that leave Israel with doing? Well, I'll tell you, my friends, Israel has done an amazingly brilliant operation, performed a brilliant operation, where we basically went after two major targets. One of them was the ballistic missile weapons arsenal. Our aircrafts hit the ballistic missile production sites, and certain elements of those ballistic missiles that make the missiles launched in a supersonic, speedy way and make it effective and explosive. Those were the ingredients that the Israeli Air Force went after. So we essentially really, pummeled the ballistic missile industry in Iran. So I don't want to say, I'm not going to say that they don't have any more ballistic missiles, but let's just say their effectiveness was severely harmed. And the number two target was the Iranian aerial defenses. So if we're going to target, we can't target any nuclear installations or anything, like that significant. We went after their aerial defenses, which poses the follow-up question of how come? And the answer is hopefully this was a preparatory step in order to allow more access to our IAF, Israeli Air Force, to continue operating more freely in order to eliminate other threats in Iran later on, such as their nuclear project, which is the biggest threat that Iran poses to Israel, to the Middle East, and essentially to the whole world. So we went after the ballistic missile weapons and their aerial defenses. And it was a very sophisticated operation. It was a very brilliant operation, and it was, in fact, very effective. Especially considering the unbelievable restrictions that the U.S. administration invokes on us. So really, Israel is maneuvering quite impressively in maneuvering with all these restrictions, against us. Just one little note of another site, a military site that we targeted in Iran, called Parchin. Just a bit about Parchin, and we'll get to that later when we talk a little bit more about the Iranian mindset and mentality. Parchin was officially declared by Iran as a military site. Okay. Therefore, thus being a military site, they did not allow UN inspectors into this site, because anything that was declared as a nuclear installation site, UN inspectors can come and check. But anything declared military is forbidden, out of reach for UN inspectors. So UN inspectors were never allowed into Parchin. Now, being so, if they declare it as a military zone, Israel attacked Parchin, which was a military site. I think they attacked either really, really right on the site or next to it, basically to signal to them, we know what you're up to. And, you know, we were following the U.S. restrictions quite obediently, and so there was no restriction to attack Parchin. But Parchin is a nuclear installation, let's be clear. Now, let's dive into the Iranian mentality and mindset, my friends. It's so important to understand the mindset and the mentality of other peoples, other nations in general, and especially our enemies. To understand our enemies' intentions is very clear. And let's be clear, okay, this is my Kamala Harris impression. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Iran is an American enemy, and it is Israel's enemy. Iran actually calls America the great devil, okay, the big devil, and Israel is the small devil. Iran is the enemy of America and Israel, and essentially the enemy of the free world. I'm talking about their regime. Now let's talk, not talking about the Iranian people, rather their Ayatollah regime. Now let's dive into Iran. What is Iran? Let's just get a little bit educated about Iran, and I want to give credit and a shout out to two people that when I got educated on the topic of Iran, I was listening to their lectures. Number one is Dr. Mordechai Kedar. He is a professor, a Jewish Israeli professor here in Israel at the Bar Ilan University. He is a Middle Eastern studies professor, and he really researched and teaches and is a big expert on Middle East studies, including different Arab countries, the Arab mindset, and also Iran, which Iran is in the Middle East, but it is not an Arabic people, is not an Arabic country, but rather Persian. We'll get into that soon. And the other person that I learned a lot from listening to his lectures is Eliyahu Yossian. Eliyahu Yossian is a Jewish Israeli who came to Israel, made Aliyah and moved to Israel, but he was born and bred in Iran. So he is an Iranian descent Jew, and he knows a lot about the Iranian mentality, obviously, and he is like a journalistic contributor and lecturer about the topic of Iran. So, what is Iran? Yeah, everybody wants to know, like, what now that there's like a war, almost, World War III about to break, what is Iran? All right, my friends, Iran is officially known as the Islamic Republic. It borders with Iraq and with Turkey. It has a multi-ethnic population of about 90 million people. So they are not an Arabic people. They are known as Persian. They speak Farsi, but they have a majority of Muslim majority population, and a population of about 90 million people. That is a lot. They once were known as the imperial state of Iran. Okay, they had a Persian monarchy until 1979. What happened in 1979? There was the Islamic Revolution of 1979 in Iran, whereas the Shah of Iran, the leader of Iran back then, was called the Shah of Iran, was replaced till this day by the present day is Ayatollah regime. They are a fundamentalist Muslim regime led by the Ayatollahs. Ayatollahs are the fundamentalist Islamic clerics. And since 1979, the beautiful Persian monarchy the 1979 revolution marked the ending of the Persian monarchy, the imperial state of Iran, and they became the Islamic Republic of Iran, led by the fundamentalist Islamic Ayatollahs. Today, the Ayatollah is Ali Khamenei. So just some fun facts about Iran. These are kind of interesting things that I also learned. All right, so when we count to 5, okay, this is going to sound silly, but guys, count to 5 with me, okay? How do we count with our fingers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's how everybody counts. How do the Persians, how do the Iranians count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, my friends, they close their fingers, okay? While we expose our hand, we expose our fingers as we're counting, 4, 5. The Persians are the exact opposite. The Iranians count by closing their fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's just a really interesting fact. But body language means a lot. What does this body language tell us? Well, it could tell us that this is, what I learned from listening to lectures of Eliyahu Yossian, who knows a lot about the Persian Iranian culture as he grew up there. The Iranians like to be discreet, okay? They like to keep their cards close to them. They like to keep their intentions close to them, and they're very discreet. They do not divulge information. They do not give away their intentions just so easily. Okay, fun fact number 2. This is not such a fun fact, but it's a fun fact. There is a well-known saying, Iran will fight Israel to the last Arab. What does that mean? Well, my friends, also the saying is, Iran will fight Israel to the last Arab, or to the last drop of Arab blood. What does that mean? The Iranians value their own lives. They do. They don't want to risk their own lives just so easily. In fact, they protect themselves very carefully. But they have no problem sacrificing their Arab proxies, which we will talk about later on, whom they designate, their Arab proxies, to do the dirty work for them, essentially. That's why the saying is, Iran will fight Israel to the last Arab, or to the last drop of Arab blood. They don't like to do the work themselves. They don't like to do the dirty work themselves or get killed, but they will fund, train, equip all their Arab proxies in order to fight Israel. Now, excuse me. I love my tea. So we talked about the Islamic Revolution of 1979. 3 examples. Let's talk about 3 examples that will give us some insight into the Iranian mentality. I'm talking again about the Iranian regime. I'd really like to separate the Iranian people, who about 70% of them oppose the Iranian regime, the Ayatollah Islamic fundamentalist regime, and they want a free society. They want to live in a free, modern, liberal society. Whereas the regime, which is what I'm talking about, the Ayatollah regime, the Muslim, extreme Muslim Ayatollah regime. Let's see what happened. 3 different examples of how they conduct themselves. What makes the Iranian regime tick? What makes them tick is what's called a perceived credible threat. That's the only thing that deters them. Okay, so remember, Iranians, they're kind of more calculated, they're a little bit more discreet, they're more careful with their own lives, and they don't like to risk or sacrifice unnecessarily. Unless they will do anything and everything to continue developing their weapons and to continue trying to take over the Middle East and the world, essentially, is their plan of the Ayatollah regime. Unless they they are faced with a perceived credible threat, something that they perceive as a credible threat. Number one example. All right, during the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran, that's when the Persian monarchy came to an end, a brutal end, by the taking over of the Shah by the fundamentalist Islamic Ayatollah regime in 1979. During 1979, the American embassy in Iran, in Tehran, the capital of Iran, excuse me, there were diplomats, staying in the embassy when an Iranian mob breached and attacked that embassy and took 52 American diplomats captives. Okay, so they kidnapped and basically held as captives 52 American diplomats in the embassy in Tehran. This was 1979. When did they... Now, by the way, an embassy, as everyone knows, is considered ex-territory, meaning the American embassy in Tehran should have been a protected area. Although it's on Iranian soil, the embassy is considered American, and therefore it's ex-territory of Iran, and it's considered American jurisdiction legally, and considered almost American soil. So the diplomats that are on the embassy are supposed to be protected. Now, even if the diplomats in an embassy are even accused of being hostile towards the hosting country or espionage, they're still considered protected, or they would be declared as persona non grata, and the country that is hosting that embassy, here it is Iran, should have given them, let's say, an ultimatum or a deadline to get out of the embassy within 24 hours, 48 hours, or 72 hours to escape. But not here, my friends. During this 1979 Islamic Revolution and this mob attack on the U.S. embassy in Tehran, Iran, they took those 52 diplomats and held them as captives. Until what? They held them for 444 days. That the Iranians were holding them captive, and then they released them. What happened on day 444 that they released them? Well, my friends, that was the day that U.S. President Ronald Reagan was sworn into the White House. Once again, a perceived credible threat. What did Ronald Reagan say during his campaign? It was a major campaign promise that he said that the first thing he will do when he enters the White House, he said, we will take care of the Iranians. Meaning, we'll get back our hostages, the diplomats being held captive there. We'll take care of them. Now, when Iranians heard we will take care of the Iranians, they understood, they realized this was a big threat to them. Something big and unpleasant will happen to them. And my friends, the day that Ronald Reagan was sworn into the White House, the Iranians released the 52 American diplomats. They released them without ransom. There were no Iranian terrorists that had to be exchanged in the process. They were released for free, just by being terrified of Ronald Reagan's election promise. The day he was sworn in, they were released. Credible threat, remember. Iranians will be deterred only by a credible threat. Example number 2. 1988, the year I was born. That has nothing to do with anything, sorry. 1988, U.S. accidentally, the U.S. Army accidentally shot down an Iranian aircraft flying over the Gulf. Now, 1988 was amid the Iran-Iraq war, okay? These two countries were at war for like about 8 years. Iran and Iraq. They were attacking each other for 8 years. Not just attacking each other, but they were attacking each other with actual chemical weapons and unconventional weapons. Once in 1988, once the U.S. accidentally, and they even declared that it was an accidental attack, and they shot down an Iranian aircraft, and about 200 Iranians were killed. That was it. Iran, they pulled up a white flag and they completely gave up and stopped the war with Iraq. That was, this is a people that are considered very calculated, very patient. This war was going on for 8 years, and it could have continued. The accidental shooting down of the Iranian plane by America made Iranian regime leaders think that America was joining Iraq in the war against Iran, and they completely froze and they just pulled out. They pulled out of the war, they gave up, they pulled up a white flag, and that was it. Remember, they were delighted at continuing to fight Iraq, but they didn't want to take on America, and they were scared of America joining the war, which that is what they perceived. Example number 3, 2003, if you guys remember, U.S. invades Iraq. This was about 2 years after September 11th, and George W. Bush Jr. Decides to invade Iraq. There was some perceived threats of unconventional warfare and chemical weapons or so in Iraq. America invades Iraq. Now, there was some voices that were heard that Iran heard that U.S. Once they finish cleaning up Iraq's nuclear weapons, they're moving on to Iran. Again, this was 2003. Once Iran heard that, as soon as they heard that, they froze their nuclear project. I'm just laughing because it's just interesting how they operate. Okay, it's a fear-based, cost-effect kind of mentality. And so when they heard that America was going to clean up was going to go on next to them and finish up the work cleaning up the nuclear installations in Iran, they completely froze the installations and declared, we're okay, we're done with the nuclear project, or that it's not, a viable threat. In 2004, this is very interesting. In 2004, Saddam Hussein was killed in Iraq. He was a brutal Iraqi dictator who killed his own people. And in 2004, he was killed as America was still in Iraq, still invaded Iraq. And there started to be an uprising and an insurrection by the Iraqi people against U.S. troops that were in Iraq. Who was behind this insurrection, at least partially? Well, my friends, it was Iran. Iran funded and trained a lot of the Iraqis who were fighting the U.S. troops to the point where about 4,000 U.S. troops were killed in Iraq, but mostly not by the war America was waging in Iraq, but only about 150 soldiers were killed in the actual war. The rest, about 4,000 troops, were killed by these uprisings. And the Americans actually found actual proof that the people that were behind the uprising, it was actually Iranian funded and Iranian trained. They even caught Iraqis that confessed that they had gone to Iran for training to fight Americans. And they came back to Iraq to fight the Americans. They found Iranian terrorist trainers. They found Iranian arms. And they knew that Iran was behind these killings, 4,000 troops. But they didn't do anything. Now, meaning they didn't do anything against Iran. America did not pay retribution to Iran for doing this. And then in 2006, once Iran realized that the U.S. was becoming, unfortunately, more of a paper tiger, meaning like a scary threat, but not so threatening anymore, only made of paper, they renewed their nuclear project, okay? And Iran basically has been taking over the Middle East since. What they do, and like we mentioned in our examples, they and all the fun facts, they like to delegate and to micromanage, and they like to have proxies do the dirty work for them. They will supply the funding, the subsidizing, and the training. Now, who are they funding and training in the Middle East? So there's two major Muslim religious denominations, or ethnicities, you might say. There are in the Muslim religion, you have the Sunnis and the Shiites. Sunnis and Shiites. Sunnis are considered to be, at least nowadays, the more moderate Muslim denomination or ethnicity, and the Shiites are considered more fundamentalist. Iran is, you guessed it, Shiite. The Iranian regime is Shiite. So they kind of, in a sophisticated, kind of calculated manner, have been going over the Middle East and creating alliances with the Shiites all over the Middle East, making alliances where the agreements are that Iran supplies the money. Okay, about 80% of the regime's money is from the oil fields that they have. Again, they don't process the oil, but they have the oil which they can export. So they supply the Shiite militias all over the Middle East with money, arms, weapons, equipment, training. Okay. Now there are a few different proxies of Iran. In Israel, they call them the Iranian octopus because Iran is the head, and they have a lot of different arms, a lot of different militias and proxies that do the work for them. So, as we know, in the war with Israel, one of their major and most accomplished proxy is Hezbollah. Hezbollah in Lebanon. So Hezbollah is the guerrilla terrorist military, essentially. They have been training them and funding them. Without the Iranian money, the Hezbollah would not be as powerful as it was. Also, Hamas. Hamas has been fighting Israel from the south, and they have pulled off committed the atrocities of October 7th, where 1,200 Israelis were murdered and slaughtered. Women were raped. About 250 Israelis were kidnapped and taken hostage. These are not prisoners of war. These are women, children, young girls, young men, elderly women were taken into Gaza Strip. And we still have our 101 hostages still being held in Gaza Strip in torturous conditions, dead and alive. Now, that was Hamas. The Hamas received funding from Iran, and there are a few more militias. We got Syrian militias that are backed by Iran, Iraqi militias backed by and funded by Iran, and also the Houthis in Yemen. The Houthis would be nothing without Iran. These are all very, very impoverished, poor countries that manufacture terrorism, and without Iranian money, they wouldn't be worth squat, as they say in slang. So Iran really is the head of this octopus, and what they created was a job where they're the manager, but they're the micromanager. They don't have to do anything. Till this year, they did not ever attack Israel directly until April of this year, and then once again on October 1st, where they launched the second direct attack on Israel with 200 ballistic missiles. They would not have done this. We are in a war where Israel is systematically, by the grace of God and with the help of God, taking out the Iranian proxies and the monstrous proxies that became these murderous threats in and of themselves. And we've been taking them out, Hamas, Hezbollah, and now we're getting to the head of the snake, Iran. Even though we know Iran is behind all of these Shiite, remember we said there's Sunni and Shiite Muslim denominations. Iran has created alliances all over the Middle East with the Shiite militias. But what Donald Trump, back in 2016, during his first presidential, hopefully not last presidential term in office, what he did was he created a brilliant counter-alliance. If Iran was making alliances with the Shiite militias, Donald Trump and the U.S. administration was trying to build Sunni alliances together with Israel as a more moderate, more liberal forces in the Middle East, which includes Saudi Arabia. They are a Sunni country, also a very wealthy country, and the Saudi Arabia did not sign the agreement yet with Israel, but the Abraham Accords was signed between Israel and the Emirates, the Gulf Arab countries, the Emirates. They're called the Abraham Accords, which is a really beautiful name because, as everybody knows, Ishmael was the son of Abraham, and Yitzchak, Isaac, was also the son of Abraham, meaning there is a certain relation and proximity and alliance, a natural alliance between, what could be a very good alliance between the sons of Abraham against the murderous, cruel, sadistic, diabolical Iranian regime that is funding murderous proxies. And they have one goal and one goal only. Like I said at the beginning of the video, they want to take out the little devil, which is Israel. They see us as a threat because we are a free country in the Middle East, and we are Jewish, free, liberal country just sitting here in the Middle East. And they want to get to America, the great devil. And their goal is jihad. Jihad means taken out in a kind of murderous and cruel revolution of the world, taking over the world essentially for Allah, for the sake of for the sake of God. They want, they kill people, innocent civilians, and for the sake of God, for Allah. But there is hope, please God, with the right conditions to create alliances against Iran and to actually fight Iran directly, the evil, which is the evil head of the snake, which is Iran. Which brings me to Donald Trump. I got to put on my hat, guys, the MAGA hat. Yeah, it's, I'm not hiding who we are voting for. Donald Trump, my friends, he was the best president for Israel. He moved the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He recognized the Golan Heights as Israeli territory, which it is. He did everything he could, and the Abraham Accords was his doing, him and his administration, God bless them. And you guys, if you didn't go out and vote yet, it's Tuesday, November 5th. Go out and vote. Don't be lazy. Go out and vote for the sake of Israel, for the sake of America. He will, restore order and a good economy and world peace. I know it sounds kind of interesting that this man but could do that, but he can, and please God, he will. I want to show you guys a short video. Why, basically, in a satirical way, shows why you should not vote for Kamala, but rather vote for Trump. Donald Trump, everybody. God bless America. And I just want to show you guys the video. All right, my friends, here is the video. It's a short video, so bear with me. Why you should not vote for Kamala, but vote for Trump.
I'm a Jewish Democrat, and I'm voting for Kamala because if Iran supports her, I support her. I'm a Jewish Democrat voting for Kamala. Democrats only hate that I'm a Zionist, not a Jew. I'm a Jewish Democrat voting for Kamala because, well, Jews vote Democrat. I'm a Jewish Democrat, and the Squad are a vocal part of my party. I'm not worried about the rampant Jew hatred. What's the problem? I'm a Jewish Democrat voting for Kamala because she cares about Israel and Gaza. I'm a Jewish Democrat, and even though Democrats didn't want Shapiro to embrace his Jewish identity, I'm sure they have my best interest at heart. I'm a Jewish Democrat voting for Kamala when it comes to Israel, despite Donald Trump moving the embassy to Jerusalem, the historic Abraham Accords, Biden and Kamala flip-flopping on Israel, but I'm convinced Kamala will do a better job. I'm a Jewish Democrat. My grandparents left communism. Embracing similar ideas won't lead to the same problems. I'm a Jewish Democrat, and I'm voting for Kamala because I don't want Trump, and neither does he. I'm a Jewish Democrat, and because I've been calling Republicans white supremacists for years, I've completely ignored the anti-Semitism in the Democrat Party. I'm a Jewish Democrat voting for Kamala. If I don't, my friends will judge me. I'm a Jewish Democrat, and I'm...
All right, my friends, she said it best. She said all my arguments in a satirical, funny way. Please go out and vote. If you haven't voted, I'm a Jewish Republican, and we support Trump. And hopefully, I would really love to do another video, hopefully after Trump is elected. My friends, Jews and Gentiles alike, be well, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for joining me on the Jordana River podcast. I hate to tell people what to do, but if you like the video, please drop a comment or subscribe. And for you pro-Hamas people out there, feel free to drop comments. That's how I know I'm doing well in this podcast, that I'm so successful that pro-Hamas people are commenting. Be well, my friends. See you guys next time.